Welcome back to the last part of the introduction to Oil Tycoon. Oil Tycoon is the third game in the RetroRemakes project in Unity. In this video we will finally take a look at the game manager. It has a lot of responsibilities that we will see when we take a look in the code, but for now let's just take a look at the fields that are exposed here. There are many lists of scriptable objects in here, and these are used to configure the game externally. Everything that is in here is used in the game to present to the player. For example, the companies. Here we see the 4 companies the player can choose from, and the offices the player can choose, or the regions where oil fields exist, or the tanks the player can buy, detectives and agents that can be hired. You can find all of those scriptable objects in the scripts folder, under scripts, Oil Tycoon and scriptable objects. Let's run through all the types of scriptable objects we have in here. For example, the company. Here you can configure the data for that company. We have an ID here that is used for loading and saving. So it should be unique for each company. And we have a company name, a short name. Sometimes, for example, in the statistics screen, there is not too much space for the full company name. So we use the short name there. Then we have a reference to our logo and a reference to a logo stem. That is just an outline of the logo you can see on the map when a company occupies a sector. We can set the starting money for that company, and we can give a primary and a secondary color. That is, for example, used in the statistics screen to colorize the line charts. But you can also use it, for example, to colorize the pipes in the pipeline minigame. Then we have the agent data scriptable objects. Here you also have the ID that is used for loading and saving, the agent name, a short name, a logo. We can add that here, and then we can extend the hiring screen for the agents to show that logo. And we have offer data here. How many months will that agent work for us, and what is the price for hiring them? Then you also have a list of action success rates. That means each agent can perform different actions to sabotage other players, like burning an oil field or sabotaging the tanks, or manipulating the oil price, or rob money from them. And here you configure the success rates of each agent. For example, this agent has more or less successful rates in those 2 tasks, and you can decide to show these information to the player, but I find it more interesting that the player can find out what agent is suited for which task by exploration, and you can randomize them at the game start even. So it's not clear from the beginning which agent is good at stealing money, for example. In comparison, this agent here has very low success rates. These go from 0 to 1, and 1 means there is always a success in the sabotage. The same is here for the detective data, has similar fields, but there is only 1 field for success rate. You can change that, of course. You can make it similar to the agent, that a certain detective has a better success rate for preventing stealing money and so on. But for now, there's only 1 success rate for every sabotage attempt. Then we have the map regions we have in the game. These are the regions you can see on the world map with the red selection boxes around them. And here, for example, for the region Alaska, we define by what enum type this scriptable object is referenced. Then we have a concession price we have to pay when we want to drill in that region for the first time. Then you have a minimal oil field price and a maximum oil field price in that region. The same goes for maintenance prices. Then you have the minimum and maximum amount of barrels that you can get from each oil field. And these values are used at the start of the game when the sectors are generated. Each region has 24 sectors you can buy and drill for oil in, and each sector gets a value from these ranges. For example, one sector can be very cheap but has a very high oil output. You can find that out by getting expertises for that sector, or you can just get lucky and buy such a good field by accident. And for each map region, we have a sprite with the detailed map for that region. For example, that's the one for Alaska. Let's jump back to the scriptable objects. And here you have the earth layer configuration for that region and the earth layer configuration for ocean tiles. Like I mentioned in the video for the drilling minigame, each region has a unique composition of earth layers. For example, in Alaska, there's more snow involved. In the desert, there's more sand involved, and so on. And lastly, you have a list of ocean sectors. These indexes indicate which sector is an ocean field. For example, Alaska has quite a few ocean fields, and that is important because when you are buying such a sector and you're drilling there, then the earth layer configuration for ocean is taken, and the costs are a lot higher because drilling in the ocean is more expensive in this game. So you can see each region has their own configuration here, and you can adjust those prices to give more variation. You can, for example, say the concession price for one region is really low, but also the amount of barrels that you can get there is very low, so it would be really useful as a starting region for the player, and so on. Let's take a closer look at these earth layer configurations. These are also scriptable objects, and you can find them in the earth layers folder here. Let's take a look at the configuration for Alaska. Here we have a cap sprite, that is the sprite you can see at the topmost layer. Let's take a look at it. For Alaska, it's this snowy sprite. And go back to our scriptable objects and earth layers and the snow. And in Alaska, you always have these 4 layer types. You first have a layer of ice, then stone, then mud, and then rock. Like explained earlier, the percentages of each layer varies, but the composition and the order of the layers is always the same. And these single layers are also scriptable objects. For example, the ice layer. Each layer is also associated with a type of layer that is an enum, but the important settings are the color and the firmness. For example, ice is rendered as a light blue color and has a firmness of 0.4. Remember, the firmness dictates how much the drill deviates from its path and how hard it is to control it. And when we take a look at the rock layer, for example, it has the gray color and it is very firm, so it's very hard to control the drill in here. And you can make a few of these configurations. For example, for the ocean, I have made a separate configuration where you have shallow water, mid water, deep water, and rock. And when we take a look in here, you can see the firmness is very low. That means it is very easy to drill fast in here. So that is one reason why drilling in water tiles is so expensive. The other one being, of course, that creating an oil rig in the ocean is much more expensive in the real world as well. So let's take a look at the other scriptable objects. Here we have the map regions explained. That leaves the offices, and there's not much to it. They also have an ID for saving and loading, and just a sprite. That is the image you can see here in the background. And if you want to extend the game, you can add a few more fields to this office data. For example, if you have a very modern office, that could help to prevent sabotages because your security equipment is a bit better. So you can add a new field here. Sabotage prevention factor is 0.8, for example, so only 80% of the sabotages are successful. Or as another example, maybe if you have a very old and conservative office, then the oil prices are a bit better for you. But I'm sure you will come up with much more reasonable examples. Lastly, we can see the different tanks we can buy in the game. Here we have the price for the tank and the capacity, and also a reference to the according sprite. And when you want to extend the game, maybe you think there are not enough oil companies in there, then you can just add a new company. You can either duplicate that entry here, or you go to Assets, Create, Scriptable Objects, Oil Tycoon, and choose one of those data objects. And then you can fill in your own company name and create your own logo for it and select a color, starting money, and so on. And then you go to the game manager and just add a new entry here and drag your new company in here. And then the game manager will automatically consider it as selectable when the setup screen where the player has to choose their company will come up. So that's it for the introduction of Oil Tycoon. That was rather long because the game is a bit more complex than the other two. If you have any remaining questions, I'll be happy to answer them in the comments or in the Discord server. But I think you know now the most important stuff that's going on in the scene. Not in the code maybe, but in the scene. And you can try experimenting with the game. In the next videos, we will take a closer look at certain features of all the games, take a look in the code, and give you a deeper understanding of the mechanics behind the games. If you want to get notified when a new video arrives, please subscribe to the channel. Until then, happy creating and take care.